Welcome, Let'sRun.com supporters club members. Welcome, live viewers on our live stream to the recap of one of the craziest track meets in the history of track meets, the 2023 Meeting de Paris, the Paris Diamond League. We saw not one, not two, but three world records in the span of 2.5 hours on Friday afternoon. Absolutely crazy. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 754.10 for 2 miles, obliterates the world record of 758.61 by Daniel Komen. We follow it up with not just a world record, but a great race between Letesenbet Gidey and Faith Kipyegon in the women's 5,000. And in the end, Kipyegon gets her second world record in 8 days, 14:05.20 in the 5,000 meters. And then to finish things off, Lemaitre Girma, he saw what they did. He has to break the world record now as well, right? And he does. 752.11. He takes down the world record that belonged to Saif Saeed Shaheen that had stood since 2004 in the men's steeplechase. Oh, and in between all that, we also had Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone running her first 400 on the Diamond League circuit. Her first Diamond League race in 4 years. She goes out super hard, but gets run down, gets beaten by Marilady Paulino of the Dominican Republic. We had Marcel Jacobs return in the men's 100 meters. He looked well off the pace. He gets run down by Noah Lyles, who gets a big win in that one. And we had a crazy 800, a blanket finish, 7 men under 144. That was a terrific race. That might have been the headline of a typical Diamond League race, a typical Diamond League meet, but there was nothing typical about this, Weldon. This has got to go down as one of the most exciting track meets we've ever seen.
For sure, John. You didn't even mention Keely Hutchinson's 155. I mean, this meet had it all. After the Jakob world record, I was like, wow, okay, he got it. That's in the wheelhouse. The 5K world record, shocking. And then I thought that was it. Then you have Sydney get beat. I'm like, wow, this is great. Oh, Keely 155. And then I'm like, how are we going to cover all this stuff? And then they line up for the steeplechase. And I'm like, no, they can't. And they did. So I can't go there. Right. Well, when you say I can't do something, that means you're going to do there, right, John? The second world, which record was your best? Before I go there,
I think it's Ingebrigtsen. Maybe it was just because that was the first one, so I was feeling sort of the most excitement. Like when you're in your third world record of the night, Weldon, you're just kind of like, oh, right, another world record. Yeah, that's what we all expected. The first one, it wasn't just that he broke it, because I did predict on our podcast this week that he would break it, is he smashed it. Like the way Ingebrigtsen broke this record, he took 4 seconds off a Daniel Komen world record. Like no one else other than Komen's ever gone under 8 minutes. Jakob ran 7:54, and you would think if he's going to run if he's going to break the world record, you run at or a little slower than world record pace, then maybe you can dig the last lap and just get under or something like that. No, what Jakob did, he ran the first half of this race at world record pace. Then he picks it up the second half. He's running along those blue lights that are for the pacemaker. So faster than world record pace. He doesn't even look that tired at the bell. And then he just picks it up and he runs a 56 as if it's no problem at all. It was the ease with which he ran this, or he appeared to run this. I know he was tired at the end, but he made it look easy, and he smashed a record that belonged to one of the most legendary distance runners ever, Daniel Komen.
Yeah, for sure. And the way he did it, John, the lights have changed the game in terms of all the records.
It's not the lights, Weldon, it's the shoes. Come on. You know that. The lights help us. I think they make these record attempts, they optimize the conditions a little bit more, but you could have put these lights on the track 5 years ago. I don't think you'd just be having people smash distance records left and right.
Right. But the lights have changed how we watch the world records, essentially.
Yes.
Where I was going. Yeah. I was about to say, when I was getting which world record was the best, the more world records we saw, I think the less significance overall of the records, because I think something has changed. It's the shoes. but we can still appreciate tonight. This is one of the greatest nights in track and field history. But I was like, oh, is it something weird thing with the weather? The most likely thing is the shoes are this much better, and we're finally seeing it. Why would we all see it in one night? Maybe there's new prototypes out. Who knows? I mean, three great runners going at it. They set up for the world record and the lights. It's amazing. But real quickly on the lights, they're generally designed. I mean, they can do whatever they want with them. They're generally designed for even pacing. And when people can kick, you saw this in the 5K as well. If you're close to the lights at the bell, forget about it. If you have a kick left, but if you're just grinding and have no kick, okay, fine. You want to be even. But like Jakob ran this thing like almost like a championship race. He just throws down the last lap, and he kicked off a world record pace.
Right, that's crazy. That's the thing. When you get to the bell and you're running 7:58 pace, I mean, Koeman probably ran faster than world record pace in his last lap. He was probably running like 8 flat pace and he kicks. I don't know exactly how he did it, but that's normally how you get a record. And yeah, he was chilling at world record pace. And I don't know. I did see that workout. The splits got leaked out by Norwegian press, and it was 6x800. We don't know what the rest was, but 2 flat, then 155, then 149.5, 149.5. So crazy results. But also they were telling like his lactate. They were measuring his lactate during the workout, and they said after running 2 flat for 800, his lactate wasn't that high. And I'm like, that's 4 flat mile pace, little 401, I guess, for a full mile. And if his lactate's not spiking that high, he's just got to be super, super fit aerobically right now. And you kind of saw what it looked like in the race today. But in terms of like, why do we see all these records tonight? Well, I think there's a confluence of factors. It's not just the shoes. Ingebrigtsen and Kipyegon, I would both say, are generational athletes. Like Kipyegon's the greatest miler on the women's side ever. Ingebrigtsen is the youngest person ever to break 4 in the mile. He's the Olympic champion in the 15 at age 20. He's the world champion in the 5K at 21 years old. So these aren't athletes. They don't just like run-of-the-mill athletes who are put in shoes, or like great athletes who are put in shoes. These are like generational talents that also have all the amenities of modern shoes. You've got the lights. They do help, like you said, Weldon. I think it was pretty good conditions. Looked to be in the 70s. Little bit of humidity, but there are a lot of fast times. I think it was pretty good for distance running. And then the other thing with Kipyegon is, you couldn't set it up any better for her to break the 5K world record, because you've got the previous world record holder, Letesenbet Gide, essentially acting as her pacer through 4,200 meters. So all she has to do is stick on her and then kick. She took the lead with 800 to go. And I thought she looked tired. I was like, she's not really going by her. She's not picking it up. I thought Gide might even pass her on the last lap. But then Kipyegon hits 200 to go, and she starts sprinting like it's an 800. She ran 28.1 for her last 200 meters at the end of, in a world record race. So even for a regular 5K, closing in 60.6 and 28.1, which is what she did tonight, that would be a fast close. In world record race, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we can break down each race individually, but a couple comments here. People are saying, I give Rojo a full 60 seconds. There's 2 comments related to this. Before he says that Grant Fisher will never medal in the 10K. Well, we're more than 60 seconds in, people, and I see no Rojo. And now, coincidence or not, John, Rojo's not on the show, and we have 3 world records. Rojo is with the family today in Austin. He's not going to be on the show. And we have the greatest distance night in track and field history, I think.
Well, hold on. I just want to provide some historical context here. People in the chat are asking, has there ever been 3 world records in one night? Yes, there has been. The 1997 Zurich Diamond League, we had Wilson Kipkeida go 141.24 in the 800. We had Wilson Boit Kipkeida, so the steeple Wilson Kipkeida, 759.08 in the steeplechase. And we had Haile Gebrselassie go 1241.86 in the 5,000. So that was 1997, 3 world records. We did also have the epic 1995 Zurich Diamond League, which didn't have 3, it had 2 world records, but it had the first ever sub-8 steeple by Moses Kiptanui, and it had Haile Gebrselassie taking 10 seconds off the world record in the 5,000 meters to run 12:44.39. So that was also a pretty epic night. So this is not totally unprecedented, especially if you consider Ingebrigtsen is only officially a world best according to World Athletics. But it's one of the all-time meets. They'll be talking about this night 20 years from now, hopefully.
Well, I'm glad, John, that they had the world record banners. Well, can we stop this world best stuff? Like, these are world records. I'm glad they celebrated it as a world record.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing we got the other 2 world records, because we don't need to go there now. But the Ingebrigtsen run, we could have just had that, and it would have been amazing, and nobody would have seen it. It wasn't on the TV window in most of the countries where this was shown. That's just inexcusable. I'm sorry. We don't need to harp on that, but like, please, like the sport just shoots itself in the sport. He's one of the biggest stars in the sport. You can't think just about the people in the stadium. You got to think about the people watching worldwide. Every chance you can, reach as many people as possible. But okay, let's go back to Ingebrigtsen. John, I can try. I think I have some post-race comments from him. You said we don't know how much rest he had. He said, actually, I'm going to play a shorter clip. At the end of the clip, he said 90 seconds rest at the start of that workout, and then it got longer in between as he went on. But, John, do you know what's 5 days from now or 6 days from now?
The Bislett Games in Oslo.
I think this could be another Faith Kipyegon situation here, because I assume he's going for the 1,500-meter world record. But here's Jakob after today's race.
It's very motivating, in the warm-up to know that it's a good crowd. The energy is at the top, and good conditions, good stadium. Everything is set for a good time. But at the same time, you need to go out there and deliver and do your best. I think we really hit the perfect, opening laps. Good pacemakers, good light, and also, as you said, with an amazing crowd. It's just a great evening.
How does this affect your confidence going into Oslo next week?
I would say it affects it positively, but at the same time, I know where I'm at. That's I know what I'm capable to do in training, but at the same time, it's something else to do it in racing, and it's very good to get the answers that I get tonight.
So there you have it. And sorry, I don't have any other clips. I didn't know there was going to be 3 world records. So in terms of audio, that's it. But that's the first time I heard someone credit the lights. I said, a good pacers, a good light. It's like, could there be a bad light? It's a computer. I mean, I don't know. Maybe once Chat GPT controls the lights, maybe they'll get the pacing. Like, you don't want to have perfect pacing. You want to have slightly negative or positive splits or something.
Well, I just like when the lights are set to world record pace. I mean, we saw last year when Elise Cranny, they set the pacing lights in her 10K, but it wasn't to American record pace, so it just confuses everyone. And they did actually, they had it that way in the 5K, and I think that actually worked out well, because that put them in position, if they could just kick, they would break the world record. But for the steeple and the 2 mile, it was right at world record pace. It was just very easy to follow as a fan. Is he ahead of the green? Yes, it's a world record. Like, as a fan watching it, especially when they're miles ahead of the next closest competitor, as they were in the 2 mile and the steeple, it's a lot more compelling, because that last lap with Germer, I was like, oh my God, he was going back and forth with the lights, like over the last 2 laps. The lights caught up to him for a second, and then he pulled ahead again, and then it looked like he was slowing. He'd go over the barriers. It made it much more exciting to follow that way. So I do think I'm a fan of the lights. I'm glad that they exist. I don't think we need to use them for every race, but for world records, they help. Now, in this 2 mile, Weldon, 7:54.1, I mean, as we were saying before, it's a ridiculous pace. I was looking at his splits according to the report on the Diamond League website, he covered 1,600 meters to 3,200 meters in 3:52.2, which just like blew my mind. How insane! Like, could you ever consider someone running that fast in the middle of like a 3K or 2 mile, which this was?
352?
352.2 is what they had.
Wow. I mean, that just shows how quick this is. As you said, John, he never looked under pressure. He looked smooth throughout, and then he kicked. It was like almost like a controlled run, and slight exaggeration, and then with a great kick at the end.
Now, my question to you, like, where do you rank this in the all-time distance performances? I think this is a fraught question. Maybe is unanswerable because when you can comparing it to previous runs and previous records, everyone has different conditions. Everyone's got different shoes available to them. But if you look at what World Athletics and John Kellogg, they have it worth 325 for 1,500 meters. Kellogg has 718 for 3K. World Athletics has 719 for 3K in terms of equivalences. They both have 1234 for 5,000. And then they have 2611 and 2612 for 10,000 meters. The world record there is 2611. So according to those conversion charts, this is one of the greatest runs ever. But we don't run the 2 mile very much on the global stage. How do you see this fitting in?
I mean, I regard Coleman's 720 as the best record on the books just because it's been there the longest. And this, I mean, there's no lying. This is 2 mile versus 3K. Equivalency charts, this is way better or better. But at the same time, I wasn't considering Cheptegei's 10K record to be the best on the books. So things change. I mean, there's tons of discussion on the LetsRun.com forum. You guys need to go check out the forums. They're blowing up, drug accusations, super shoe accusations, light accusations. And people are like, Coleman didn't have the shoes. He didn't have the pacing lights. And they're like, well, Coleman was the height of the EPO era. And I have never heard anything really linking him to EPO, but stuff changes, right? The drug testing was a complete joke then. So I don't know. A 2 mile record. If he breaks the 15, John, I'll be more impressed for whatever reason. I want to see that one go down. It's run a lot more often. People have been trying to get it a lot more. Sure, you can say statistically, performance chart wise, this one's better. But I want to see the one go down next Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, the 1,500 is the one that people run more often. So that's one thing with these conversion charts is 2 miles. You're just judging it off a smaller base of performances. But a lot of the best athletes did run the 2 mile. None of them ever ran close to 754. One other thing, so his split at 3K was 724.07. So that's number 3 all-time outdoors. It's number 4 overall because Germa ran 723 indoors this year. But then Ross Tucker on Twitter notes that from 400 to 3,200 meters, his split was 651.1, which is 720.4 pace. So I think it's pretty conceivable that this was right on par with Coleman's 720, or maybe a little bit better. It's not a perfect comparison, but I think this was pretty much right on with Coleman's run from in the 3,000 his world record. All right, looks like we've lost Weldon for a second, so I'm going to blather on by myself here for a minute. Let's move over. World record number 2, Faith Kipyegon in the 5,000 meters. This of the 3, this wasn't really hyped as a world record attempt. All right, we got Weldon back here. Don't know what happened there. Weldon, I'm moving on here to the 5,000 meter world record, unless you have anything else to say on the 2 mile.
No, John. I'm glad the show didn't go down when I went away. I was trying to put up the results, and it got a purple screen, so I closed that out, and then I don't know what happened. I was also still routing the traffic through my VPN. Maybe that had something to do with it. I hope everybody signed up. If you need a VPN to watch this stuff, I mean, obviously Peacock's great. Support your local streaming provider, but I love the YouTube experience. I use my VPN to watch on the Diamond League YouTube stream. If you need a VPN, go to letsrun.com/VPN. But
yeah, well, actually, I want to give Peacock credit for this because they extended their window. As of 2 days ago, this meet they were going to come on the air at 3 p.m. Eastern after the world record. they worked hard at the last minute to get this within the TV window or within the Peacock window for US subscribers. And they showed it, and they had commentary from Steve Cram and Chris Dennis. It was great. Kudos to them. On the other hand, the Diamond League page, I was on there a couple of days ago. It said they were going to start the stream at 7 p.m. local, which would have been well before the window. And then they changed it. I looked on it today. It said, oh, we're actually starting at 9 p.m., which is after the 2 mile. So usually the Diamond League's pretty good about getting those streams out, but they didn't communicate it very well for this meet.
I mean, it's crazy that the Diamond League would have the stream and not put it on early. Just makes no sense. And anyone who signed up for the VPN just to watch this race, NordVPN, our VPN of choice, has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So feel free to cancel if that was the only reason you're signing up. But you need to be a Peacock subscriber, and you need to have a VPN. The VPN, if you do it for the year, is like, I think it's under $5 a month. It's free, essentially. And you can protect your traffic. But, okay, John. We're sticking to the world records. We're not doing Keeley 155. That I probably would have been talking about 20 minutes for that if we didn't have all these other world records. We go to the women's 5K, and we have Gide race. It was an interesting matchup, right? Gide, the world record holder at 5K and 10K, who actually never wins 5Ks, right? I think the last 5K she won was the world record, which really was just a world record performance. She always gets beat. Taking on Faith Kipyegon, who broke the 1,500-meter world record last week in Florence. And, John, Kipyegon's last 5K was when?
2015.
I mean, this is just stunning. I was like, 2017? I'm like, no, that's too far. No, it's too recent. And they're sort of sitting there, and you've got a good field in this one. But it was the two alpha females. They both delivered. And with about, 3 laps to go, they're ahead of the lights. And then I'm like, what are the lights at? And then there's like 14:10. And then inside of I think Gide starts to slow a bit inside of 800 to go. Is that the correct, John, or was it 1,000?
Well, Kipyegon took the lead just after 800 meters to go. But she didn't pick it up really either. No. I mean, they were both just kind of, running along.
I think essentially she took the lead. I think Gide, surprisingly, had slowed so much. And I can pull up the splits here just to double check this. Actually, looking at the splits here, 70 for the second lap, 68, 67, 68, 67, 68, 67, 67, 67. Now we're inside the final 3 laps, 68.1 and 68.7. So, you'd kind of be surprised actually that they were losing the pace in the final mile. So that's why Kipyegon takes the lead, and they start falling behind the lights. And on the commentary, the world feed, they're like, oh, there goes the world record. And they're pretty far behind the lights at the bell. And they got something wrong. Like, she needs a sub 60 to get the record. And I'm like, no, she doesn't. She needs like a 61. And 200 to go. It looked like that 1,500. She's one of my favorite runners to watch right now. It's just beautiful to watch her go. She just goes full flight, the final 150. About 100 to go. I'm like, I think she's going to get the record. That's the thing. The lights have changed it as a fan. I don't know how far ahead 4 seconds is, but she just starts crushing the lights. And I'm like, I think she's going to get it. And about 30 meters, you can tell. And I loved it. Like right before the finish, she looked at the clock, and she had this. I don't think she thought, I'm going to leave this race with a 5K record. She was very focused on racing and trying to win this race. I think that was the goal. Oh, maybe not, because she did go a rounder with 800 to go. But
no, that's what she said. If you look at her flash quote after the race, well, then she confirmed, the world record came as a surprise to her. It was not something she expected. Her exact quote, I did not think about the world record. I do not know how I made it. I just focused on the green light and tried to stay relaxed and enjoy the race. I just did the race and wanted to see what happens. When I saw that it was a world record, I was so surprised. It was all about giving my best. I just wanted to improve on my PB. The world record was not my plan. I just ran off to Gide. She's an amazing lady. It is amazing. So yeah, she had a shocked expression on her face. It kind of reminded me of Florence last week. She was shocked. I think maybe that she broke the world record by so much, or that she had finally gotten this record that she'd been going after for so many years, that was finally the moment. But we kind of knew, okay, that might be in the cards. This one, I think she was genuinely shocked. Like, she didn't even really think about getting the world record, and it was just a product of following Gidey and having to race. Because they said it early in this one, the only way Gidey was going to win this race is if she forced a really fast pace and dropped Kipyegon. And she did an admirable job of that. I mean, Gidey did pretty much everything she could have done, shy of running the world record herself. But it would have taken a 14:04 to drop Kipyegon tonight, and no one in history has ever run that fast on the women's side. So kudos to Gidey. First woman ever under 14:10 twice. She ran 14:07. But Kipyegon, I mean, 2 world records in 8 days. Just sensational running. I guess I'm curious, like, can she get the 3K world record? Well, then what do you make of her chances at the 3K? Like, I feel like 8:06 is even superior to I think it's superior to 3:49. How would you compare that to 14:05?
What's the number 2 3K time?
Well, I think the fastest. All right, it's interesting. Like the number 2 3K time is 8:12, but then there's also the non-Chinese record is 8:16 indoors by Dibaba or 8:18 outdoors by Hassan. I think she's clearly able to run much faster than either of those two right now.
Yeah. People always say, "Oh, everybody's doping." The drug testing does something, John, because those Chinese times were so unbelievable, and they just came out of nowhere. It just shows, like, if you let people, women in particular, even more so because it's more beneficial. If you let them dope, the times are just crazy. After these records, I wouldn't be surprised if she can break any record. 8:06 seems so damn fast, though. I was trying to put up the results. Gentlemen, I can't share my screen. That's what's causing me to crap out of here.
Well, don't worry about it. This is audio only for our Supporters Club members anyway. But, well, I guess my question, so Kipyegon, I mean, this is phenomenal. She's such a talent. She has so much joy when she competes. She's a beautiful runner to watch. I mean, clearly very well respected by her peers. If you're Kipyegon, do you do the 1,500 5K double at Worlds this year? I feel like everyone wants to see her do that. And you might get maybe 2 head-to-head showdowns with Hassan as well. Like, I'm not convinced that Hassan couldn't get into 14:05 shape herself by August. So I think that's what I'd love to see at the World Championships is the 15:5 double by Kipyegon.
And this just changes the perception of Kipyegon so much, John. I mean, she hasn't run a 5K in 8 years. She breaks the world record? Like, this is shocking stuff. But also, yes, you can be a legend. El Garouche was a legend. Faith Kipyegon's already the greatest female 1,500-meter runner ever. You can be the legend running one event. But you're like the goat of goats if you can run 2 events.
I don't know if I call it goat of goats, but you're challenging yourself. You're trying to reach to a new level. Like, it's like Britton Wilson at the NCAA or Caitlin Toohey. Caitlin Toohey probably could have showed up in Austin and just won the 5K, but now she's trying to run the 15 and the 5. The great athletes, we say it all the time, the great athletes like to push themselves and try new things. And that's what the 15 and 5 would be for Kipyegon.
Yeah. And I guess El Garouche, I said, running one event. Well, he was a double Olympic champion, so that's a terrible analogy. It's great to see her, and maybe that is kind of a good analogy. Late in the career, do the 5K. Oh, wow, she can really do this. And I think we're seeing with Jakob. In today's era, to be able to run these speed in the 15, you generally have to have amazing endurance, and you're going to be really good at the 5K. I think a lot of the people, unless you're like, a white man who's more of an 8:15 type. But if you're anyone of a distance runner running the 15, you're going to be able to run a really good 5K. I mean, like they were going, and this shows the ball game. Like we get all excited about Alicia Monson. You know, she's been running really well. And John, I essentially never saw her on the screen after the start of this race.
Right.
14:34, season's best. You know, only 3 seconds off her PB. But I think that just shows how the ball game's changing. You know, Alicia, the Americans, they somehow need to get down like 14:20s. I think that's, well, she's run 14:31, but like low 14:20s, that'd be a good goal for her. And then you think, okay, maybe Olympic near in the teens or something. Like you got to do baby steps essentially. But I'm glad to see her also in this field. Laura Muir, I think, really fell off at the end. 14:48, 11th place. That's actually a PB for her. Ellie Hennis, 15:04. Whitney Morgan, 15:20. So I'm glad to see even Ellie and Whitney, who just got destroyed, go to Paris and try to race. You need to get exposed to top-notch competition, see what's out there, and essentially whether like, wow, like, you know, if you go race here at some, I don't know, you know, domestic meet, you're going to run 14:50 and think you're really good.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a reality check and kind of a realization of what the gap is between the very, very best in the world and the best Americans. I mean, Monson, 14:34, that's fine. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think also when the very front women are going out in 14:10 pace, she wasn't right on them, but kind of puts you in a tough spot because you're going to have to fall back a little bit, or you're going to go out way too fast. But yeah, she finished behind 4 Ethiopians. None of them were the reigning world champion, Gudaf Sagai. She finished behind 3 Kenyans. None of them are the reigning silver medalist, Beatrice Chebet. So those 2 countries clearly have a lot more talent right now than the United States. Like their 3rd best athlete or 4th best athlete is probably better than the top American right now in this race. But I don't know. I mean, it's not like Monson. I guess there was a pretty big gap to 6th place. She was pretty close to Lemlem Hailu, who might not even run the 5K at Worlds. But yeah, I don't know. I think Alicia Monson can run faster. I think, yeah, if I'm her, it's a decent race, but it's also a reminder how good the very best women are. Now, Weldon, Robert is complaining in our chat here. I mean, he's not even going to be able to listen to this complaint. He's listening to the show on mute, and he's complaining that we're not dancing around naked. So am I going to get fired if I keep my clothes on? What's the LSE policy here?
I'm not sure. Like, what's this? He's saying of a guy, Nigel Rojo. How dare you? These guys are putting me to sleep. What is Nigel saying? I'm not sure, John. Hey, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
So
I'm not
we
exciting you with
we
our
won't be canceled.
analysis when you're muting the show. I mean, what does he want? I don't understand.
For our Supporters Club listeners, I hope you guys enjoyed his rant on Tuesday. Oh, man, but it's almost easier to rant, John, when there's like one world record. We're only 2/3 of the way there, and like we haven't even touched on like so much of the stuff in this meet. We have one more world record to even discuss. Like, if there's just one thing, you can harp on it, go crazy. This one, like, I'm still like trying to like comprehend. And this is what I come back to. We said this at the beginning. I guess we had it happen in Zurich. That's in my lifetime. I now vaguely remember that meet. Oh man, I was out of college then. Wow, dating myself here, John. But there was internet, but you know, there was no streaming, so I probably didn't see it. Who knows how? Anyway, but yeah, I think the shoes make a big difference. And related to this, we were saying that Jakob's going to go for the 1500 record, and there's 2 Norwegians here in the chat. They both essentially had the same said the same thing. Jakob told Norwegian media that the Bislett track is too slow for the fastest 1500 meter performances, and made no promises other than to do his best to entertain.
Just for the record, Tomek is a friend of the show. He's Polish, not Norwegian.
Oh, does he speak Norwegian?
I think he might. I'm not sure.
Wow. Sorry, Tomek. He says, you know, Jakob wants to lower his PR. And with the fact that Jakob would know, oh, the track's not that fast, we're sort of naive not to think that. Some tracks definitely are faster than others. Like at Tokyo, when Warholm went 45, I was like, wow. And then when Sydney broke the record the next day, I was like, I'm like, oh, maybe it's the track. Like, the more shocking performances you have, just by definition, the less shocking they are, right?
Right, but as we said before, I think we're dealing with a couple generational talents here, and then someone Germa whose strength is very clearly running hard pace from the front. So let's talk about that steeplechase. That was the one. Well, I guess the 5K we weren't even thinking it was going to happen until 200 meters to go. So that one, the 5K was where it was in the most doubt. But this one, I was watching it, and I was watching his hurdles over those last 2 laps very closely because clearly he was exhausted. Like he was working hard to close. There were a few barriers where he'd clear it, and then he'd kind of look as if he was falling backwards, just like a step. Like he'd land, and it wasn't smooth. It was definitely the landing of a guy who was really redlining. And that's the impressive thing with these steeplechase world records is you need to time it. Like kicking in a steeple is not like kicking in a 5K where you can just kind of drop the hammer or shift gears like that. You've still got to clear these hurdles. So I was super impressed by that. He's ahead of the lights for most of the time, but then the lights, they're right behind him. He's not really gapping them or anything. He didn't really gap them until the final 100, and then I'm like, oh, he's got it. But there were multiple times where I was like, oh, this is going to be the hurdle. He goes down, or he's going to miss it here. Like, what were you thinking when you watched those last 2 laps?
Interesting, John. Yeah, because he went so fast the second K. I'm looking here at the splits. Germa's first K is 2:37.7, and that includes the first K is usually faster because you got to get going. There's less barriers. Second K 5:12, so that means he ran 2:30. He ran 2:34.8 the second K. I mean that's flying, and he's way ahead of the lights. And I'm like, oh, he's gonna crush this. And then all of a sudden the lights started getting closer and closer and closer. And I think at the bell the light was right on him. And John, after all these records, even today, and I'm sure people like 10 years from now will be shocked that, we don't know this. You have to be ahead of the first green light or the end of the green light.
Well, here's the thing. When they rolled out these pacing lights a couple years ago, I remember someone saying it was the last light is record pace. But I'm pretty sure now it's actually the first light. So I don't know if they made a change there. To me, the most intuitive thing is to have the first light be world record pace. And I think that's the case now, but I'm not 100. I'm like 80% sure about that.
Yeah. And it's weird. Before I didn't like the lights. Maybe it's when they miss the record, the lights kind of suck. But when they get the record, the lights are great because you can tell they got it. I don't know. But before I was like, oh, I like the drama. And then, John, I wasn't thinking too much about the hurdling. But I think with about 350 to go in that turn, I'm like, man, he looks cooked. And then he managed to stay ahead of the light with 200 to go. And I'm like, well, he should be able to kick something in the last 100. And I thought, okay, this is a steeplechase. This last water barrier is just going to determine everything. And he came through it fine. So I think then I thought, okay, he's got this.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, he just broke the world record. I still don't think he's going to win the gold medal at Worlds this year.
I sort of agree. Like, is this a Gaudet situation?
Yes. I mean, El Bakkali just ran 7:56 and has always had the better kick. Germa is Mr. Silver Medal. He deserves a gold, but in a championship race, like, is he going to be able to run 7:51 without wave light? Without pace. I guess pacemakers I don't think are as important for him, but is he going to be able to do that in a world championship final? Because I think that's might be what it takes to drop El Bakkali. Yeah,
and I think his best strategy to beat El Bakkali is to try to drop him. But can you do that, or you just end up serving as his rabbit? I mean, this one went out, John. He was so fast that second K. Like, he passed the second rabbit about maybe like 3 minutes and 15 seconds in. So what is that? Like a little after a K. It's probably like 1,200 meters. He didn't even need the rabbits. Then you're just chasing the lights. And that's where I think the lights really do help. It's like you have a visual. It'd be interesting to see how well you can see them when you're on the track, but you have a visual representation of where you need to be. But he didn't give a shit. He just was going. And then I'm like, oh, wow. With 400 to go, I'm like, wow, he's going to pay the price. Thankfully, if you get too close to the sun, you pay the price a little bit. It almost was refreshing for me to see him come back because I'm like, this has to stop. This madness has to stop. I can't see him just like destroy this thing by like. I thought before the bell, I thought like, wow, he's gonna go under like he's going like 748 or something like that. Like I thought he was gonna go sub 750. So it was reassuring to see.
Well, records are hard. Yeah, that was
they're
nice.
hard.
Oh, also, all right. Robert has a constructive comment this time around. Maybe he's listening at this point in the show. Who knows? He says Goma versus Jakob at 3,000 meters. $1 million for first, $100,000 for second. Nothing if there's no world record. I mean, if those guys agree to it, I'd love to see it. Is there anyone else we should throw in there, or just a match race 1-on-1?
Grant Fisher, of course, John, right? And speaking of Grant Fisher, people waited. Wasn't Joe Klecker in this 2 mile for a while?
I thought he was in, but then I reached out to Jordan Donnelly, who might be listening right now from Paris, actually. He said he wasn't ever in the race. So I don't know how that ended up spreading, but he didn't end up running. I don't think he ever had plans to run.
Because I just saw the thread. Maybe I never clicked on the thread. There was an American back to this 5K.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about Paul Chelimo. How did he even do? I didn't even notice the results.
Really?
I didn't even see. Tell me how he did.
I lead the Paul Chelimo fan club. John, what's a good performance? What do you need to see from him?
I mean, a good performance for him would be sub 8:10.
He did not have a good performance. I think we'd all agree. 8:15.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think honestly, this isn't Paul's type of race. You're just getting buried on a quick pace. It's not his way. But I sort of had the argument after the 10. I mean, does Kiprun have a super shoe? But the game's changed. He has pacing lights and super shoes. Now, he ran about, 20 to 30 seconds faster than his first 10K? But I'm like, maybe we're giving this thing too much credit. So Paul has
too much credit.
His 10K run in London. Because we're like, oh, he's totally back. Making this 5K team is going to be so ridiculously hard. So, I mean, we just had an onslaught of Americans going, 1250. Fisher was 1256, right? In 11th place last week.
Yeah.
So he still has over a month to be ready.
Yeah, 8:15 is not good, but given the dynamics of the race, I'm not panicking all that much. But you would have liked to see him run a little bit faster and beat some of these. I mean, some of the Kuma Goma, Justin Koech, the guys who were third and fourth, I haven't heard of. Ishmael Kipkurui, that was the world junior cross country champion earlier this year. He's pretty talented. So I don't penalize him for losing to Kipkurui, but the other two guys, yeah. All right, shall we go on to some of these non-Diamond League events, or I guess non-world record events? The 2 mile was a non-Diamond League race.
We got to give a shout out to Roger real quick. In the steeplechase, John, Anthony Rotich. Did you see what he did?
Anthony Rotich, the American, was in this race?
Yes.
I guess I was only paying attention to the leads. He ran a PB 8:16. Okay.
5-second PB. Now, what did Robert predict he would be, like the Olympic champion or something at one point?
I think Robert said he could medal in the 1,500 meters at Worlds, which was a ridiculous prediction at the time and has only looked stupider and stupider as the years have gone on. But 8:16, that makes him the fastest American of 2023 not named Hillary Bohr, and which means he's also the fastest American who will be competing at USA's this year, most likely. That could change in a few hours, depending on how the NCAA steeplechase goes. But very, very good run, very encouraging run for Anthony Rotich.
With a Japanese record, Robert loves these too. Well, Ryuji Miuri. This dude's only 21. He broke his record by 0.01, ran 8:09.
Oh, actually, Sorry, Weldon, I got to correct myself. He's 0.04 off of Duncan Hamilton's US leader. They've both run 8:16.
Okay.
And Bohr has the US lead. He's 0.04. He's number 3. All right. There we go. Full context.
All right. The rest of this meet, I know where I want to start. Well, it's obvious, right?
I want to start with Sydney.
Whoa, really, John?
Yeah. You want to talk about Keely?
No. This is a distance running website. Yeah, I figured it'd be sort of obvious.
I mean, I've seen Keely Hodgkinson run really well in the Diamond League before. It was really, really impressive. It was a PR, but Sydney versus Paulino was more intriguing to me than Keely blowing everyone else out in the 800.
John, let's do Keely first, just because it's distance running. Then we'll go to Sydney. I mean, I barely knew Keely was running, I think, until like yesterday or something. But rightfully, the attention was on Sydney versus Paulino. It's a much better matchup. But this was her outdoor debut. And 155.77 PB. Ajay Wilson with a good run in second. 158.16. I'm not writing. I still think Ajay can be a medalist at the Worlds. I think this is a pretty good run for her. But Keely had sort of the look on her face, almost a little bit like Faith. It was sort of like, whoa, I did that? You know, indoor she was racing all the time and trying to break records and coming up short. Not here. I mean, I think she surprised herself. And
she definitely did. I think she said she had a what the F. She let slip after crossing the finish line.
And for reference, like last year, they had a Birmingham meet in May, it was only May 21st. I mean, probably shitty British weather. 158.6. She then ran 157.7 at pre, winning both those. One in Oslo, 157.7. So just all along, amazing performance. And now, John, maybe I shouldn't go there. Don't need to go there. But could she be the favorite for the World Championships?
I'm not ready to say that yet. She's never beaten a Thing Mo. No one's beaten a Thing Mo since a Thing Mo turned professional. But thinking about this, I think Mo, she's got to be at her best this year. I'm pretty sure she's going to have to be at her best if she's running the 800 in Budapest to beat Keely Hodgkinson. Is she going to be there after switching training groups to a guy who really has little experience coaching the 800 meters? I don't know. And we might not find out for a while because Mo isn't even going to be running the 1500 at USA. Like, who knows when or if she will run her first 800 meters in 2023. But the thing for Hodgkinson is it's not just that she ran 155.77 her first time out, breaking her own British record. It's that, one, she didn't expect to run this fast, clearly. So she was fitter than she thought she is. And two, this is a woman who in previous years has gotten faster as the year has gone on, who has run her best race of the year in the Olympic final in 2021 and then in the world final in 2022. So if she's starting out with a 155 and running totally alone, like not chasing anyone down, how good could she be 2 months from now? It doesn't always work that way, but the way Keely's progressed in the past, if she can stay healthy, I mean, she might be in 154 shape by Budapest.
Right. And the one thing I thought after this run, though, I'm giving her so much credit, and then I'm like, wow, Thing's in trouble. She hasn't raced yet. But if anyone in the world can debut, if Keely can debut in 155, there's one other person on this planet who can debut in 155. It's a Thing Mo. So it's unlikely, though, that you debut that fast. But I don't think we can totally hit the panic button. But I want to see some performances before the Worlds. And I'm thinking Bobby might just roll her out to the Worlds, maybe not even having raced an 800.
I think that's possible because, look, she's not planning on debuting until June 24th at the New York City Grand Prix, and she would run the 1500 meters in that event. And then the U.S. Championships are 2 weeks after that. So maybe they sneak in an 800 in between, but my guess is no. I mean, first of all, she has to qualify in the 1500. It's not like people are taking it like as a given that she's going to be at USA's. I've looked at the rules, Weldon. There's nothing that guarantees her an entry in the 1500 meters at USA's. Not in the USATF rulebook. I reached out to USATF to try to get this sorted out. Haven't heard anything from them so far. I think she'll probably run a qualifying time, but who knows? But my expectation is she may not run an 800 until after USA's, or maybe not at all until World Championships. And if that's the case, and Keeley continues to just mow everyone down and blow them away on the Diamond League circuit, I think by the World Championships, maybe Keeley could be the favorite. But it depends on what Athing Mu does between now and then.
Wow. And John, do you know what yesterday was?
Athing Mu's 21st birthday.
Yeah. They're both only 21 years old. And we could have these two going at it for... That's crazy. I mean, they could be really good, John, for 3 more Olympics. Even Olympics next year. I mean, 2028 and 2020. I can't do the math. 32. And they're not going to be that. They'll be under 30 and 32. That's nuts. Right at 30. But, John, if they let me into the 10,000 meters at nationals 1 year without a qualifying time, they can let Athing Mu into nationals without a qualifying time. So, let her do it. They changed the qualifying window. I backed it up, John. 4th place. Thank you very much. But, okay, let's get there. We'll go there. You wanted to go there. The women's 400 meters. Tremendous matchup. You had Sydney, who would have placed, I think, second in last week's Diamond League 400 meet if she had to hurdle it and ran her best time, versus Paulino, the World Championship and Olympic 400 silver medalist. And halfway through this one, or not even halfway through this one, Sydney started like just an absolute rocket, man. I mean, she made up the stagger, probably coming off the turn. She passes Paulino. I mean, it was crazy. And then, I don't know, with maybe 150 to go, I'm like, she's got to come back or she's just going to run like some ridiculous time.
Do you think she was trying to break the world record today, Weldon? I mean, she made out the stagger on Paulino by the first turn. Like midway through the first turn, she erased the stagger.
Yeah, putting a picture on the video of those people watching.
Look at that gap to Paulino, so McLaughlin Lavroni's in lane 4, Paulino's in lane 5, and this is entering the second turn. So theoretically, McLaughlin Lavroni should have an even bigger lead coming out of the turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. She's supposed to be behind her at that point, like even if she's even, and she's like 3 meters ahead. It's crazy. And then she completely rigged up the final 100, and Paulino came by and got the win. 49.12, good time. I mean, she's already run 48.99 this year, 48.98. So, and she was happy. I mean, you could tell this one meant something a little special for her. You don't want some hurdler coming in and stealing your thunder. I don't think she's going for the world record, John. I think she's probably not used to running the 400 flat. I think the hurdles probably help govern her a bit.
So wait a minute. You're telling me there might be some value in running races to learn how to run an event. Groundbreaking. But
right.
It's interesting. On the podcast earlier this week, I predicted she'd win. And then I saw her comments from the press conference in Paris, and it sounded like she was downplaying things. Like some of the quotes she was saying, she was like, she didn't want other people judging her results. So she was kind of just, wanted to get in there and set a baseline or whatever. I kind of read that and I was like, oh, okay. I don't think she's winning. Like, this is kind of more test things out. This isn't one like show up, we're really ready to rip. Even though she didn't run like that. She did run like she was ready to rip and just ran out of gas. But I was kind of thinking, I'm like, I might want to change my pick to Paulino now. But yeah, the way she ran it, she went out super hard, too hard as it turned out. She might have to go out that hard if she wants to run 47.6 one day. She's not ready to do that right now, but I don't think this was a disaster for Sydney. She got a personal best out of it. She broke 50 seconds for the first time, 49.71. I think if this was a world championship or something, I would be criticizing her tactics and saying, oh, she did not run the right race to win. But this is a Diamond League, and this was her getting experience in an event she hasn't raced very much at a high level. I have no issue with her testing something out. Okay, learn from it, make adjustments. I'm sure Bobby Kersey will make the proper adjustments because he is a top coach. So, yeah, she got beat, but if I'm a McLaughlin-Lavroni fan, I'm not saying, oh, the sky is falling. I'm saying, all right, she's not going to make that mistake next time out.
I have one big thought. I wonder if Bobby said, you go out hard. Now, I don't know if he thought like she was really ready for something big, or he's thinking long-term and thinking she gets this in her legs, the next time she'll be able to do it. Like she'll be used to this pace, but it could completely backfire. Like, holy crap, now she's afraid of the 400. She's scared. But if Sydney went next, John, I wouldn't be shocked if Sydney went out and ran like 48.5 the next time she runs, or even quicker. Like nothing she does would shock me. Like the world record is crazy to me. I don't think she's getting that ever, probably, for sure not this year. But if anyone's going to like completely turn it around the next time, it's her.
Yeah. Also, well, do you see what her first 200 was for this race?
Yeah. So the splits here, Thomas Lester saying she's 22.6.
That's ridiculous.
34.95 at 300, which is still 46.6 pace. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, what they win the 200 in? 22 low?
Yeah.
Wow. I think her losing also is better for the sport. Puts a little doubt. If she was just wiping the floor of Paulino and then goes into Worlds, you're like, okay, there's no doubt what's going to happen here. I guess then it would be, can she do the double if she was trying the double? But I think humble pie is good for a lot of athletes. She seemed to handle it fine on the track. I like seeing that.
I'm just glad she raced. I mean, we've been pleading for her to race since last summer. This was her first. I mean, unless you count that 60 indoors in New Balance. I mean, she did run the prelims there and didn't make the final, but it was her first outdoor race since August of 2022. And it was fun to see. She's a spectacularly talented athlete. I'm glad she ran this. I hope she runs some more 400s this summer. The sport's better when you've got the best athletes competing. And we saw that, like, look at all the other events. Look at all the Diamond League season as a whole this year in 2023. All four meets, I think, have been pretty great. And it's because we've had a lot of the sport's biggest stars showing up, sometimes racing each other, sometimes racing the clock, but they're there competing. That's why we do these live shows after the Diamond League. We don't do them after the Continental Tour Gold or these USATF, Grand Prix series meets. It's because the Diamond League, you don't have people scratching out of the Diamond League at the very last second. Heck, even Marcel Jacobs ran this race. So I guess I'm proving my own. I'm actually going against my point because Marcel Jacobs has scratched out of Diamond Leagues at the last second, but it's not like the LA Grand Prix where you've just got everyone in the field suddenly not running anymore.
Somebody in the comments, Jensen Labbert says, Warholm did the same thing in the indoor circuit, splitting 20 point for 400 hurdlers, man. Yeah, I think the hurdlers.
But that's Warholm's deal. Warholm is known for going out crazy fast. Sydney, I don't think this was the first time I can remember her going like super, super fast.
Well, the other thing, John, about athletes not racing, like we said, this is Kiwi's first time out. Kiwi had a big indoor season. Sydney didn't, and Athing Mu didn't. So I think there is a difference. If you haven't raced at all indoors, like what you're coming back from is much greater. So first performance, John, the more I think about it, with no indoors to go out like that, it's pretty crazy, man. I mean, we might see some really big things from the 400. This isn't disaster for her. Keep her head up. I think she could come out next time and run 2 seconds faster. I'm not expecting that.
What do you
by any
mean?
means,
Two seconds faster is 47.7. You're saying the world record is ridiculous to consider.
Wait, exactly what is the record though?
It's 47.60, and she ran 49.71 today. So
90 and 91. You said 91. She ran 71 or 91?
No, 71. 49.71.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's not even that bad, John. I thought she got beat by more than that. I thought she ran like 49.9. Okay, not 2 seconds faster. Second and a half faster.
Also, wait. We need to address Salwa Nasa is returning. I mean, she's not at the level she was in 2019 yet, but coming off of her ban for whereabouts, she's opened up in 50.88 earlier this year. She got down to 49.78 a couple days ago, and then today she was third in 49.95. I think she's still a ways off Paulino, but I think in terms of who's going to improve more between now and the end of the season, I think Nasser is more likely given her long break from the end of, from last 2 years. So I wouldn't be shocked if she's in the mix as well at the World Championships at a higher level than we've seen from her right now.
Yeah. And this could be your podium at the Worlds. Also, in
you
this
got
race,
Britton Wilson around though too. I mean, this.
Oh, never mind. Take that back. Yeah, Britton Wilson better run the 400, and if she does, she'll knock one of these women off the podium. I'll say that much. Gosh, she looked good. It was looking good. Also in this race, John, I only saw this because of the comments. Anna Hall, 50.82. She also high jumped at this meet. 7th in the 400, 8th in the high jump. Very good. I mean, maybe I guess someone's got to get 7th or 8th in these times, but it's not like she ran 52 seconds. She's
the U.S. indoor champion in the 400 meters, so running 50.8 doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still impressed. All
right, let's wrap up these final couple events real quick, Weldon, because we've got some writing to do, and then there's the NCAA meet later today in Austin where I got to head over to. Men's 800, I don't know if I have any big thoughts about it other than the last 100. I've never seen that many people spread across that wide running that fast. You would have thought the way this was a blanket finish, Emmanuel Wanyonyi, who has been the top guy this year, gets up to win it in a world leader of 143.27, but there was only 0.2 of a second between first and fifth. Marco Arop, Saman Mula, Jamal Sajadi, Benjamin Robert, all of them are right there. Kinyamal was another 0.08 behind Robert in sixth place. It was just nuts that they were all still there, considering how fast they ran. So this is a good race for the 800. It was exciting. If this was a World Championship final, we'll be freaking the hell out. But there's a Diamond League where 3 world records are set, so it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, this one was total afterthought for me. It was put last solely because the Frenchman Robert in there, and he won this thing last year, which is fine. I always say put the best last. Hometown winning last for the locals, that's fine. That's could be the highlight. But yeah, John, at the finish, I was kind of ignoring this race, and I'm like, oh, look at all these guys together. No one's been, Wanyonyi's been running 143s, but I'm like, I thought it was a 145 race. And then the times come up, and I'm like, 7 guys under 144? The 800 is kind of getting back. It's been not a lot of, up front. Maybe shoes are making a difference too. I don't know. We see a bunch of guys start running 142s. I mean, you never see that. So they were close. I think probably the most interesting thing to note, last place, Emmanuel Carrere again. Not an improvement. Your Olympic and world champion, 147.7. After last week, I said he's debuted in last place before, but usually he's not debuting at 147. He did another 147. I think, he'll have a bye into Worlds. If anyone's not going to panic after 2 147s, it's him. But it's another data point. It's not one in the right direction.
I just don't understand. If you're in 147 shape, why are you even showing up to run this race?
I
Like,
hope
if
he
you
gets
know,
paid.
I guess so, but it's just, I mean, yeah, like you said, this guy always delivers when it counts, but he's been atrocious. This was awful. Like, there was a huge gap. He was almost 3 full seconds behind 9th place. So I don't know. I hope he was getting paid, because otherwise I don't know why you would be running here. All right.
Okay, the hurdles. Sorry, somebody wants to point out. It's fine. I just see the winning time. There's so much going on. I'm like, oh, that's great. He's trying to point out Grant Holloway got to win 12.98 into a headwind now. So this poster's arguing that this might be better than Grant's PB. I'm not going to go that far, but he won by 0.11. Nice victory. A couple wins in a row here, so there's a reason he's a world champion, right?
Yeah, no, this is a very strong run. I am not smart enough to analyze what this means in terms of win or not win, but 12.98 into a headwind is terrific running. And yeah, I think he probably can reach a level that the other hurdlers in the world can't. It's the issue for him is making sure he does that in the biggest race of the year. He's done it in the last 2 worlds. He almost did it in the 2021 Olympics, but we've talked about this before. Holloway is the most consistent guy on the circuit. More often, he's the guy they're firing at, and he came out, he showed why today. What about this men's 100? We finally got Marcel Jacobs running. He made his outdoor opener. I was kind of surprised, he scratched out of those 2 meets the last couple of weeks, and yet he's on the start list here. And I was like, is he even going to run? Like Steve Cram was saying on the broadcast, he checked the start list. He was looking in the blocks to make sure he's even there, because this guy does have a history of scratching. But I think we saw why he scratched out of these meets, Weldon. He was well off the pace. He got 7th, 10:21. He faded badly down the final 50 meters. He's just not close to what he was in 2021 right now. And it looked like it's because he's been dealing with these injuries.
Yeah, agreed. He got a great start. He's such a big dude, but we shouldn't forget he's world indoor champion. And he was like, I was shocked when I saw the final time. He just really faded. What do you think of Lyles? Lyles gets to win 9.97, Omanyala 9.98. I think it's a nice win for Lyles. I don't think it means that much. I don't know. Omanyala is going to be contending for the medals. That guy will be a finalist. Tebogo, same thing. There aren't that many other guys you have to beat. It's not like Michael Norman's really stepped up to the plate this year. So you got Curley.
Look, let's be honest. Yeah. Well, in the 100 this year, it's been Curley and it's been everyone else so far. Right. Curley shows up. He runs in the 9.9s. No one. Most of the rest of the guys are struggling to break 10 seconds. So for Lyles to show up and run 9.97, that I was very encouraged by that. And I don't know if I would go as far as to make him he's the number 2 American right now, but he could be. He beat Omanyala, who's been pretty solid this year. So I would actually be quite encouraged if I'm a Noah Lyles fan. And this was the recipe, right? You saw how with 40 meters to go, I was like, oh, they don't have a big enough gap. Noah's going to run him down. And he did. So 9.97, considering a lot of these guys are having problems breaking 10 seconds in Europe right now, I think that's a pretty decent time as well. It might get skewed because someone will run stupid fast in Austin tonight, but this track in Austin is going to be a lot faster and the conditions much better for sprinting than what we had in Paris. So, yeah, if I'm a Noah Lyles fan, I'm pretty encouraged by that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think the heat really does make a difference, John. I read any other explanations? These guys are all dropping 9.9s in Austin in the prelims. 9.8.
Someone called PJ Austin ran 9.89. A 0.20 second PB from the University of Florida. I'd never heard of him before. And suddenly he's number 3 in the world this year.
I can't make sense of it. But the super spike for sprints was outlawed. Remember? There was going to be one, and I think they were going to crush all the records, and they said no. But it seems like if you know that's there, can you kind of get close to it secretly or something like that? Jensen Labert says, John says, if I was an Noah Lyles fan, does someone have a problem supporting Lyles?
Well, I have a
can
problem
answer this
supporting
one.
any athlete. I don't root for athletes. I'm a journalist. So
It's a
Noah
lie.
Lyles, how dare
That's a
you?
lie.
How dare
That's
you
like the
impugn my
media.
credibility?
It's like, the New York Times saying we're unbiased or something. Fox News.
I don't
Trey
root
Jones,
for any
fair-
athlete
fair
over
and
another.
unbalanced.
I just look, it doesn't really make a difference to me who wins the 100. I'm going to cover it regardless. Noah Lyles, great to cover. I enjoy talking to him. I enjoy watching him race. Pretty great guy for the sport. But do I root for him to have success? Not any more than anyone else.
So you watch the 100 just like a cricket match, just sort of.
I watch the 100 and I root for the story. I want a great story to write about. That's really what I'm concerned about.
Okay, we got a few comments here. People want. I didn't think much of this race. The Abby versus Gabby 200-meter race.
No, well, then it doesn't really move the needle for me at all. And we got to wrap this up. So Americans 1-2. Gabby versus Abby, that's a great rhyming little name, but they ran pretty quickly. I think it was good. I mean, Abby's, they have had a couple, I guess they've been up and down this year with some of their results. So Gabby Thomas, this is a very good run for her, but it doesn't really move the needle for me compared to all the other events.
Yeah, I guess the only one I'd seen her run was the 22.8 only a couple weeks ago at the USATF Grand Prix. I'm like, whoa, what is wrong with her? So this was more what I expect from her. All right. We got an NCAA meet tonight, men's finals tonight, women's finals tomorrow. Caitlin Tooley going for the double. Anything, John, you want to say about NCAAs or?
I'm going to I'll throw out my quick predictions here right now. Will Sumner in the 800. Nathan Green in the 1500. Duncan Hamilton in the steeple. 5K, I haven't really thought about it. I'm not sure. I may as well just go with Kai Robinson because he won the 10K and he's got a really good kick. So that's kind of the lazy way out, but those are my official distance picks.
I just want to know, John, is Caitlin going to pull off the double?
No. I said she wasn't. I mean, I'm not doing this with like glee or anything, but I said it's really hard to do. Now I'm wondering, is she going to win any event? Because I think to win the 1500, she has to drop everyone, and I'm not sure she can do that because I don't think she's going to win a tactical race. And then if you're not winning, you're going to be pretty tired coming back to a 5K where you've got Evelyn Kemboy, who looked great in the 10K last night, and you've got Parker Valby. And it's going to be hot. So I don't know. I think she's going to get beat in the 15. The 5K, she is the best athlete in the field, but is that the version we're going to see after a 1500 in her legs? I'm not sure. I applaud her for going for it. I think it's really exciting, but I don't feel confident that she's going to win both.
Yeah, I don't like putting too much stock into how someone does in a 15 prelim, but she didn't act confident. And like O'Sullivan looked really good. And knowing her mom's pedigree, I'm like, wow. So I think she's more vulnerable still in the 15, though. Before I thought maybe that she'd be tired in the 15 and for the 5 and Valby could get her, but I think I'm more worried about the 15. If she gets the 15, I feel confident she then can come back and get the 5. But if she doesn't win the 15, she may not win either one of them. Real quickly here in the comments, Gabby Thomas. People did point out she was running the 400 early in the year, so she had a slow 200, but she ran 49.68 for 400. So
yeah,
she's now sort of getting more into the speed stuff. It makes sense. So maybe the strength will really help her because there was some talk maybe she should just do the 400 this year. So, all right, John, say hi to Rojo. I guess he's permanently banned from the show. If we want to see world records. Enjoy the Tex-Mex in Austin. If Mama and Papa and Aunt, I'm trying to think of a good nickname for my parents. My parents if you see my parents, tell them hi. Your
dad gave me a ride from the airport the other day, so I appreciated that. And I've had some great barbecue so far. Robert missed the national anthem last night, Weldon. He didn't get there until after the 1500 prelims. So I'm hoping he'll be on time tonight because we do have some finals to cover.
And just got a text here. Guess what's super hot in Let's Run right now, John?
Is it related to one of the world records?
No, it's not, John.
I don't know.
Sydney gets destroyed. Wow.
Wow.
But hey, drama, drama. So, hey, people who start that thread, thank you. We love you guys. If you want to, some hot takes, go on the Let'sRun.com forums. If you're just watching this show and you want it as a podcast, you need to be a Supporters Club member. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe. You get a second podcast every week. Our main podcast comes out on Tuesdays, but we have a huge blowout podcast, essentially this one that we're doing now. It's called our Friday 15. But you got to be a member to get it as a podcast. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. All right, John, go get some Tex-Mex.
Have a nice Friday, everyone.